Well, here we are, with Shadow of the Erdtree lurking just around the corner. On the day of this recording, the first preview of the Elden Ring DLC was finally released and it looks absolutely magnificent. I'm not going to show any footage because most probably want to go in absolutely spoiler free, but just be sure it looks absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to play this. However, with this amazing expansion on the horizon, it reminds me of the times from 2 years ago where Elden Ring was first coming out. It was an insanely hype time and I was so excited to finally face off against all these amazing bosses and explore this vast world. And one of the bosses I was most excited for, besides of course Malenia, was General Radahn himself. And why I decided to talk about General Radahn just before the Elden Ring DLC is because the marketing of Mesmer the Impaler reminds me of the marketing for Radahn, and I think these two are really similar in a lot of regards. However, it's not the only thing. Just before the DLC, I want to have the small retrospective about bosses in Elden Ring, and I probably want to rank all the main remembrance bosses before the DLC too, so stay tuned for that. If you enjoy this kind of content, please be sure to like and subscribe, and also ring the bell for notification. It would mean a lot to me. With everything out of the way, let's get into the video and talk about General Radahn. I think the first proper exposure we got for Starscourge Radahn was the cinematic Elden Ring trailer. Well, besides the first very old Elden Ring trailer, that is. And I think it's safe to say that a lot of people were very excited for this boss. Everyone was speculating how we would fight this insanely powerful character in-game, because this guy was like a big deal in the trailer. He was called one of the strongest demigods alongside Malenia. And in-game, it was an amazing execution. First off, the build-up in-game. There were NPCs mentioning the Radahn festival and Radahn before you even get there, like Alexander. Then there is the entirety of Caelid, basically creating an insane contrast from what was presented in the cinematic trailer. This doesn't seem like an area that is controlled by one of the mightiest demigods. In fact, the soldiers here are fighting the Rot, so it's really quite the opposite. And of course, when you finally arrive there, the Radahn festival. I genuinely love this presentation and this idea of how you face Radahn so much. After basically being brain dead after the fight against Malenia, there is this gathering of mighty warriors who can fight the still insanely powerful General Radahn and basically give him a proper deserving death of the champion he is, which honestly is such a cool and creative idea, and I absolutely love From Software for doing this. This was one of the most memorable things on my first playthrough, and I think a lot of people would agree. Of course, there are a lot of very important parts that go into making a great boss. However, the most important one will of course always be mechanics, at least in my eyes. And well, Radahn has a lot of great mechanics. First, I'm going to talk about stuff I either don't like or don't use anymore. The run-up to Radahn is the intended way how you reach this boss. You have to avoid these arrows, and I don't know, I think it's cool for a first playthrough, but nowadays I usually unload him and let him come to me, which is definitely not intended, but I'm happy it exists because it eliminates this pretty annoying run back at times. And the second thing I don't use or never really properly use, besides just for fun testing it out, is summoning, because I don't summon for main bosses. However, it's really cool charging up with all the warriors to face Radahn. The issue is he just melts and it's way too easy. But yeah, it's very cool that it's there. But what is there to love besides these really cool mechanics that create a cinematic fight? Well, Radahn's moveset is just fantastic. He has very difficult to read delays, however they are insanely satisfying when you pull them off. He has a great emphasis on positioning. If you position yourself correctly, you can get a lot of punish windows where he does his combos and you just basically duck under them. And you also need to make great use of directional rolling, especially for the hardest move in this fight in my opinion. This move where he does the spin, it's a very precise dodge because of the big hitboxes. Really love this move. However, it's very difficult. Besides that, he has a lot of very cool mechanics like his huge AoEs and his shockwaves later, which always make for some really fun moments, and I love that you can jump over them and punish with jumping attacks. It's really fun and I love that about Elden Ring. Also, of course, I need to mention the amazing spinny move in phase 2, which can create some of the most cinematic moments in the game. With all this said, I want to mention two extra things. First, the supposed Radahn nerf is not much of a nerf in my opinion, but more a fix. The hitboxes were pretty bad at limited release, and I'm very glad they fixed them. The only thing they nerfed is the combat damage for these 4 asteroids he shoots out, which is very fair because, to be honest, getting one shot by them in mid-game is a bit jarring. And the other thing I need to mention are just some personal things that happened to me with Radahn. So first off, of course, the attack he uses at the transition to phase 2, the meteor, I had no idea it was coming and it just one-shot me on my first run. And I literally just started laughing. It was so fucking good and funny. I loved it so much. It's very easy to avoid nowadays, but I love this attack to death. It's so cool. And that part in the OST in the phase 2, where the male choir kicks in, is one of the best From Software soundtracks to date, in my opinion. And it can create some epic moments, like you can see here. Yeah, I don't know, Radahn is just Kino in my opinion. It's such a good boss mechanically, and on my first playthrough I even preferred Godric. However, at this point Radahn is one of my favorites in the entire series. He's just that good. Let's first talk about consequences and what changes in the lands between after you defeat Radahn. The first very important thing is that you can proceed in Ranni's quest and make progress there, which ultimately leads to one of the game's endings, and it's probably my favorite ending as well. The second thing is more of a headcanon or more of a lore theory, but because Radahn was holding back the stars, now all the intruders from space can freely arrive in the lands between, like all the Estelles and Falling Star Beasts. And this is a very terrifying scenario if you ask me. I love how Elden Ring has this underlying theme that there is this main issue, the greater will, but then there are all the other outer gods who are plotting in the background and basically trying to screw up the world in different ways. But not only outer gods, now we have aliens too. And Radahn was holding all of that back. But since he's dead now, they basically can invade the lands between, which is again just very terrifying in my eyes. But now I want to talk about, of course, the elephant in the room, Shadow of the Erdtree. I think there is one very cool thing about bosses in Elden Ring, and that is that they all feel like they have personalities, at least the Shardbearers, personalities and their actual characters. And I really enjoy that From Software promotes and markets some of these characters to build up hype and anticipation. And I feel like while they did it with Radahn and Malenia, they weren't made out a big deal, unlike a certain different character from the Shadow of the Erdtree trailers, Mesmer the Impaler. I think Mesmer will be a insanely important character in the DLC, I know, shocker. While Malenia and Radahn were teased and they really hyped up the game in my opinion, I think Mesmer is marketed so much and he is focused on so much that I think he will definitely not be like a super hidden optional boss like Malenia, potentially optional boss like Radahn. I think he will be one of the most major bosses somewhere in the mid to late game of the DLC, which I'm very excited for. I love Mesmer, everything about him so far looks fucking fantastic and I just can't wait to fight this guy. The DLC is just around the corner and I can't wait to see what they do with Mesmer. He's the most hyped character from the entire game so far. Thank you so much for watching this video. The Elden Ring DLC is so close and I think we all are very excited to finally get our hands on it very soon. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and also please comment down what you think about Starscourge Radahn. He's a boss that over time just became better and better for me. At release I loved him quite a lot, but he wasn't like one of my favorites in the series, but now he definitely is. He is just a fantastic boss. And as already mentioned, before Shadow of the Erdtree, I want to also release the ranking for all the main remembrance bosses in Elden Ring, so please also stay tuned for that. With everything else the way, have a nice day and see you next time. Bye!